Welcome to episode 7 of Quadocast, the second installment of the election candidate interview series. Today, we have a candidate running in Valencia. Let's dive right in to learn more from him. How you doing, Henri?
I'm doing great, Eric. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here.
I appreciate you calling. I know you had a few things on your mind. There was a president's message distributed out to the unit owners. This is for QCA this morning, and that stuff we'll get to. You mentioned there were a few things on your mind that you wanted to point out or address, and we'll get to that. I want to make sure I get your name right. How do you say your full name?
Henri Roumi.
Okay. And you are, because it's not official yet in terms of who's running. I think they have to check if anyone is, still qualified to run. So, but you announced, at least to me, that you are running for candidacy in Valencia. Is that correct?
Yes, I am. Yes, definitely am.
And how long have you been a unit owner here at the Quadocast?
I started in Quadocast. I bought a Quadocast Unit 704 in Valencia in 2019.
Okay.
Just before the pandemic.
Well, good timing, I guess. Or everything's relative.
Yeah.
Or at least you've seen a lot of changes since. How active had you been in terms of being in the know of what's going on in the community or attending board meetings? And as from a new owner, from the point that you were taking a more concerned and passion role for all things finance related, that is have you more activists to step up to run for the board?
Actually, Eric, I was very interested in knowing the finances of the buildings, of the community when I started. And I was at a meeting where I heard someone talk to an older lady that said she could not afford to live here anymore.
Oh, geez.
Because prices were going up so much.
Right.
And she was told that if she didn't afford or cannot afford to live here, she could move on, sell her property and go.
At a meeting? This was said at a meeting?
That was said at a board meeting.
Wow.
And none of the board members stood up and said anything about it. They just let it go. This is when I knew that I had to do something and participate and be on the board to get things changed.
Yeah.
And have more respect.
I didn't know that. That's wild. Like, I wasn't as active in those years. It was maybe in the last year and a half. I used to be very active here, and then the last year and a half, not to go into it, but there were obviously things that kind of woke me up where I wanted to get a little more active again, and that let that stand. It's not about me. You're here, and then I'm looking, at your candidate. You're saying how you want to ensure sound procurement standards is important to you, and also conflict of interest is very important. In what other ways do you see the priorities of your matching the best of your talents to how it helps us, in the community?
Eric, I'm an accountant, professional accountant, and I worked in government for over 25 years.
Yeah.
And I have an extensive
background in
background in accounting.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that I've seen happening in our community that do not make sense.
Right.
We don't have any written policies. We don't have, when it comes to procurement, there is nothing that says that they have to go and get 3 bids. There's nothing written. So everything that I've seen and heard is just, that doesn't make sense.
Here, let me ask you this. The thing I start seeing as an emerging pattern every once in a while is like, we're not required to do it. I almost feel like there's a lackness where, as long as they're checking the 718 boxes of minimum requirements, what do you think we should be doing above and beyond the minimum requirements by law to have a more robust governance and community?
We should have something in writing. We should have rules that we follow, no matter who's on the board.
Yeah.
They should follow these rules. So if we don't have anything written, we don't have any rules.
Right. I could relate.
So it has to be written. First of all, that's the first thing to be done, is to write rules and say, this is how you're going to do things. And then you could measure how people performed against these rules.
Now, this kind of stuff could be more on a committee level. Is there a finance committee? I'm not even 100%. Or what do you know about that? Or have you tried to?
There is a finance committee, but again, for the last year, we haven't seen any of the financial statements, or we haven't seen any discussion about financial statements in the board during the board meetings.
I mean, there are minimum presentations, and one could, comment on whether that's helpful enough or it could be more helpful. It is online too, but I'm talking about what you just brought up about policy recommendation at committee level. Like, is it a closed financial committee? Are you allowed to join that committee?
Actually, I asked to join the finance committee 2 years ago, and I was just pushed on the side.
No way.
I ran 2 years. You know that I ran last year for the board.
Correct, right?
And I came in very, very close, three votes from the winner.
Sure.
We're not going to discuss this because I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
So basically, what I'm doing today is I want people to know what is happening in the building. My concern is that there are a lot of residents that are not or do not know what is happening in the building.
Right.
Communication is not open. We need to have more communication. We need a board that is open and transparent, and a board that communicates with the people. We need consultation.
Absolutely.
Which I feel we're lacking.
Fair enough. And I'm sorry to learn that you were trying to get on a committee and that did not work out. That's maybe further example of too much concentration of interests. And that's, none of us win if we, especially those who are trying to initiate offering their talents, because that's there's a small percentage here, in my view. Like, I don't want to, I'm just commentary. It's kind of hard. On one hand, independent journalism, on the other hand, I live here too. So I'm trying to balance the two. And I guess I'm learning as we're going also. But I would think that if there's only 5 to 8% of us, the most active among us, that have talents and can offer, that they're at times in different circumstances and places have not been well received. So hopefully that's something that can change going forward. I want to get to the president's message. You said that you saw things on it that you wanted to respond to. So tell me what sticks out, and what there is that maybe we need to be taking a look at or have a better understanding of, or at least to start asking more questions to better understand, in that. So you have the floor. Go for it.
Actually, we heard last board meeting, that the board was looking to get a $12 million line of credit. And I asked the board a very simple question. I asked the president of the board, what are the projects that you're going to need that money for? Can you tell us what are these projects that amount to $12 million? I did not get an answer.
Did you find that unusual? Meaning, have you ever heard of a credit line that large? Or that would be reasonable now that we know, we got 12 million to a working number to deal with for X years ahead. Then does it now make the line of credit amount make sense? Or since we might not scale to the full 12 million, we could use a smaller line of credit and that slowly, graduates, or does that matter, or that's not, the issue?
Actually, a line of credit is not a bad thing.
Okay.
But a $12 million line of credit should be justified.
Right.
Why do we need $12 million as a line of credit? Now, if we're planning on spending $12 million, I'm not against.
Yeah.
But I would like to know what we're spending it on.
A better, clearer understanding, more accurate than what we have today. So what were the things that stuck up in the message that felt a little off or merits further questions?
To get to this, I would like to maybe talk about the reserve study. We spent, I believe, $40,000 or $50,000 on a reserve study.
Right.
And the reserve study came up and said that we do need, for 2025, $2.3 million I believe, or $3.8 million. Let me just get the figure here, okay? To be fully funded for 2025, we need $3.1 million. Okay? And they took in consideration all the safety requirement and all the projects that were mandated by Florida to be done in the condos. So that study said that we need $3.1 million for 2025 and more each year afterwards. So now when I see the message that was sent out today by the president saying that we need $12 million,
right?
I'm wondering, why do we need $12 million?
What are the outliers in the itemized breakdown?
Here is that for fire safety system, $3.8 million, $2.5 million for concrete restoration, $1.5 million for electrical upgrade, $1.6 million.
No, that's spelled out and people have that thing. But the outlier in fire safety compared to what's in the reserve study, what's not adding up?
As fire safety, $3.8 million.
Right.
Versus fire safety here in the reserve study is $2 million.
So you're saying we don't know what's going on in between 2 million and 3.8 million. Like what's going, why is it near double?
Exactly.
And that's a fair question to ask.
We need to understand where is that $3.8 million coming from.
Now, there might be answers to it, but it's unclear, and that might be drip to come. We don't know. And that's part of the disadvantage of being unit owners, that we're not seeing the full
seeing the full picture, and we're not being, like, they need to explain to us what.
Right. So now that is a fair and worthy thing and reasoned thing to point out. And I appreciate and makes sense why you made the call, because you're seeing that. Are there, of the other line itemizations, are there other things that feel like it's a similar kind of discrepancy?
Actually, I'm looking at a line that says reserve funding $2.5 million.
Okay.
Reserve funding $2.5 million.
Is that a slush fund or a requirement of law, or?
This, I don't understand that line.
If you take 12 mil minus 2.5, that's 9.5. So that's roughly 25 or more % just for reserve funds. Now, I don't know if that's usual, standard, or high or low, but that's what the ratio is on quick math.
For 2025, the reserve study said that we need to spend
$3.1
million. Right. If this is required to be spent for 2025, so that amount should be included in the 3.8 million, in the 2.5 million for for 1.5 for electrical, and so on. I think we're double counting something in here.
So you're saying that might answer some of the discrepancy between the 2 million on the the fire safety system versus the 3.8, that some of it might actually be a reserve and a secondary reserve that we potentially, not definitively, could be counting reserve twice in some kind of way. What about the 3.1 million? So here, from a revolving line of credit, that means for sure we're going to start using 3.1 million of that line of credit over the course of the year, and then we're starting to pay interest on that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Wow.
Absolutely.
All right. So that clock will, the meter, like a cabbie, like the meter is going to be running soon.
Exactly.
Now, what other itemizations were there that just might be similar or outliers to that's worth a further look?
Well, here I have in the message, I have $1.5 million for electrical upgrade.
Okay.
When I look at the reserve study, I see an electrical system repair for $335,000.
And the other is 1.5, so 335 by 4. That's almost like 4x. That's almost quadruple. The other one's almost double. This quadruple. That's kind of weird. That doesn't make sense.
So are we repairing this year, spending $335?
Right, and then later
repair? Are we upgrading more than repair? So what is it that we're doing to the electrical system to warrant $1.5 million?
Right. One thing I know is that a lot of the existing electrical here, I think it was called Pacific Breaker, Pacific something. They've been long bankrupt. So there used to be an aftermarket of parts for them, and I know that each year that's get harder and harder. And it's maybe we reach the point that obviously there's going to be some kind of electrical upgrade, but you think that would be reflected better in the reserve study. And so we paid 40, 50K for a reserve study. And if anything, that might be something, right, there's a mismatch, and hopefully in time, there'll be better explanations for us to at least understand where the money is going and what have you.
When we're talking about being open and being direct with the owners, I've asked the exact same question. I said, what are you going to spend that $12 million on?
Right.
I did not get an answer. Today, because we're in an election year, we have a message from the president saying, here is the $12 million and how we're going to spend it.
So the meeting 3 or 4 weeks ago when you said you were raising, hey, what's 12 mil for revolving credit, and no one was ready to reveal anything at the time, we could now, in hindsight, say that's nothing but foreshadow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wild. Well, any parting thoughts? I want to try to, wrap things up a little bit. Is there any final summary thoughts about your candidacy or, how to go forward?
Actually, I would like to send a small message to the owners of Quadocast 1 and 4. Please get involved in that community. Yeah. If you live in that community,
it's true.
Get involved in the community. True. Try to understand what the figures are for.
Right.
You're paying money. This money coming out of your pocket. If it has to be spent, we'll all gladly spend it.
And if there was ever a time, it does seem to be now that these things are really mattering. And we've been through a lot, and we're obviously in the middle, and we're going to continue to be through a lot. So that is very thoughtful, and I hope to see that kind of participation happen as well. With that said, I appreciate the call. I appreciate you wanting to share your thoughts, and I thank you so very much for coming out today.
Thank you, Eric.
All right.
Appreciate it.
That's a wrap.